We're live in Banjul, broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. This is GRTS News at 2200 hours. And in our top stories this evening, the UN Secretary General raises concern over the deteriorating global security situation during the opening of the 77th session of the UN General Assembly in New York. First Lady Fatoumata Barrow calls for global efforts to improve the welfare of women, children and vulnerable members of society at a ceremony convened by African First Ladies for Development in New York. The Food Safety and Quality Authority launches a new scientific committee to ensure effective control of the national food safety system. And away from home, African leaders address the UN General Assembly on climate change, reforms in the UN Security Council, food security and the conflict in Ukraine. Russian President Vladimir Putin orders a partial mobilization of 300,000 reservists in what Moscow calls its military operations in Ukraine. Details of these stories and many coming ahead in the news. My name is Bai Ibrahim Cham. Many thanks for joining us. this bulletin with the presidency because the 77th session of the UN General Assembly has opened in New York, with the Secretary General Antonio Guterres sounding the alarm on the deteriorating global security situation and its potential to disrupt peaceful life, development and international cooperation. Leaders from around the world who are in New York for this landmark event, which is expected to address the challenges the world faces. Mamadou Diallo reports on the opening day of the UN General Assembly.
World leaders again converged for the first time in 2 years after the lifting of the COVID-19 restrictions for the 77th UN General Assembly. The President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, is among nearly 100 leaders attending the summit. This is overshadowed by the conflict in Eastern Europe and its effects on the global economy, peace and security. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres opened the summit warning of the dangers the world faces and the need to strike compromises to overcome differences.
Our world is in big trouble. Divides are growing deeper, inequalities are growing wider, and challenges are spreading farther.
The world faces challenges like never before, the UN Secretary General warned, calling for a world coalition to overcome divisions and provide hope in the face of turmoil.
Our world is in peril and paralyzed. Geopolitical divides are undermining the work of the Security Council, undermining international law, undermining trust and people's faith in democratic institutions, undermining all forms of international cooperation. We cannot go on like this.
Whilst he acknowledged the problems the world faces, Secretary General Guterres, however, expressed optimism that given the current situation, there could be compromises and negotiations to develop what he called common solutions to common problems. Mamadou Diallo, JRTS News.
Still on the UN General Assembly, the First Lady, Her Excellency Fatoumata Barrow, has called for concerted efforts globally to improve the welfare of women, children and other vulnerable members of society. Madam Barrow was speaking at a high-level working lunch convened by Organization of African First Ladies for Development in New York. Mamadou Diallo again.
United Nations General Assembly, African First Ladies also convened a high-level event to review the activities of the Organization of African First Ladies for Development, OFLAD, adopt its proposed strategic priorities document, analyze its vision and strategic priority areas for the next 2 years. Speaking at the event, Her Excellency Madam Barrow reaffirmed the Gambia's support to extend the current strategy to 2024 in order to prioritize reproductive and maternal child health.
Gambia agrees on extending the current strategies plan to 2024 and to prioritize on 2 areas, reproductive maternal child health, and I believe should be among the priority areas is gender equality empowerment, which includes education. Despite the financial challenges, we can also empower our women.
Madam Barbara also paid tribute to the efforts of the newest member of the organization, Kenya's First Lady, whilst also thanking the president of OFLAD, First Lady Monica Jingos of Namibia. The organization brings together African First Ladies who have resolved to promote social welfare issues relating to women, children and the vulnerable.
Our work within our respective countries should be recognized visually, but we need to make more efforts globally. The idea of unifying campaign involved all African First Ladies. I'm in for it. I think we need to speak on one voice.
Madam Barrow finally called on her colleagues to redouble their efforts by speaking with one voice to positively impact the lives of the people. Mamadou Diallo, GRTS.
Meanwhile, the Vice President, Dr. Badara Diouf, on Wednesday received in audience the Director General of the World Food Programme for West Africa and Central Africa, Mr. Chris Nicoll, who paid a courtesy call on him at the State House. After a closed-door meeting with the Vice President, Mr. Nicoll disclosed that their discussion centered on a range of issues, including government's response to perennial floodings in the Gambia and other related challenges in the agricultural sector, such as fertilizers and possible impact of low yield to other social protection systems that need to be strengthened by the government. Away from that, Food Safety and Quality Authority has launched a new scientific committee at a ceremony held at State House on Wednesday. The ceremony was presided by Lamin Sani, Permanent Secretary 1 at the Office of the President. The 6-man committee seeks, among other things, to develop and propose scientific opinions of the authority, including the scientific assessment in food safety risk to ensure effective control of the national food safety system. Ibrahim Jallo has the details.
The scientific committee constitutes 6 scientists of different areas of expertise related to food safety and quality management system. It is tasked with developing and articulating independent scientific opinion for the Food Safety and Quality Authority. The FSQA Director General Mamadou Ba said the authority is less effective without a functional scientific committee to conduct scientific checks on food items in the market.
You cannot have an effective food control system if you don't have a scientific and evidence basing. And of course, you cannot do it without food safety experts. They form an integral part in the control system.
The board chair of the authority, Dr. Amadou Sow, applauds the formation of the scientific committee, saying it was much needed in advancing food safety in the country.
The absence of this important body over the past years has really caused us a lot of problems at the authority, and hence the need to inaugurate today, and has created a missing link between food safety, risk assessment and risk management. There has also been a void in the development of an independent position on critical scientific issues related to food safety in the country. Classic was recently the issue of the sniper. This vacuum has affected the effective functioning of the science-based decision-making on official control issues for food safety in the Gambia.
Professor Makital is a member of the committee. He promised that the team will work tirelessly to ensure food in the Gambia is safe and fit for human consumption.
A national food control system ensures that food availability within a country is safe, wholesome, and fit for human consumption, and it conforms to food safety and quality requirements within the country. Molecular biologists, we have biochemists, we have chemists, we have microbiologists, we have food scientists, we have agriculturists. So we have everything that we need in order to have a very functional scientific committee.
The Permanent Secretary 1 at the Office of the President, Lamin Sane, spoke of government's continuous support to FSQA to ensure that it delivers to expectations.
The government is very confident that the scientific work expected from this body will be delivered accordingly and will help the authority to officially control the safety and quality of foods in the Gambia. Mr. Chairman, PSOVP, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the government of the Gambia, under the leadership of His Excellency, the President of the Gambia, President Adam Barrow, will continue to support the national food safety system, especially in terms of resources, to ensure that the required tools are always available for effective functioning of the system. We will continue to provide the necessary policy and strategy.
He said this support is done to ensure that the food sold in the markets are fit for consumption and for international trade. Ibrahim Jallo, GRTS News.
Moving on, the Director of Health Promotion and Education has said that the Gambia is still far from achieving the World Health Organization's target to vaccinate 70% of the population against COVID-19. Modin Jai was speaking to GRTS during an exclusive interview at the Central Medical Stores in Kotu. Ibrahim Sane has the details.
Promotion and Education, Modun Jai, said the country have a long way to go because the number of people coming forward to get vaccinated is still low. He, however, expressed hope that in addition to the routine vaccinations that have been ongoing at the health facilities, with other interventions currently ongoing, the country could reach a better target number being immunized against COVID-19.
We are still at 20.3% as of our last COVID vaccination campaign, which we did in August. We're also hopeful that in addition to the routine vaccination that has been ongoing in health facilities, together with the vaccination campaign that started yesterday, that's on the 19th of September 2022, we hope that with that number, and we also the interventions that are currently ongoing, we should be able to reach out to at least a better target. We might be above 20%. Again, we are still at 20.3%. We still have a long way to go. We are now remaining about almost close to 50%.
Mr. Njai said the Ministry of Health and partners have done its best and will continue to raise awareness on the safety of COVID jabs to reduce rumors and misconception by the public.
We have done our best as a ministry and with our partners to be able to raise awareness on the importance of vaccination. We've also worked closely with our partners and community structures to reduce rumors and misconceptions about the vaccine. And we also raise awareness on the safety and effectiveness of the vaccine. We know it has been a challenge. We know there are existing rumors and misconceptions around the vaccine, and that has affected our coverage. We have also seen a scenario where our coverage is mainly being pushed by the participation of women in the vaccination campaign, meaning we still have less men coming forward to get the vaccination. One of the attributing factors can be as a result of the messages they are getting through audios, social media platforms about the vaccine, that some are saying that if men take the vaccine, it affects their reproductive system.
Vaccine supply has improved, but absorption has not kept pace in the Gambia because of vaccine hesitancy driven by misinformation and misconception.
What we did in our initial campaign in May, we were able to go to communities. Like in Sierra South, we visited so many communities along the borderline, about 20 communities, 10 on the south and also 10 on the north. On the south, where we had a larger population, we were able to break the barriers. How did we break the barriers? Is that we were able to talk to community leaders and then also some of the influential leaders within the community, and as well as women groups and women organizations and heads of women groups and organizations in the communities. We were able to dispel some of those rumors by using them to give them the information, and they also in turn move forward to their communities to inform them about the acceptable vaccine.
WHO's primary focus now is to support countries to turn vaccines into vaccinations as fast as possible. Ibrahim Nsane, GRTS News.
In another development, the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority PURA on Tuesday installed a new electromagnetic field radiation monitoring equipment to help enhance the authority's regulatory stance for a robust protection measure against the effects of ionizing radiation. The ceremony was attended by senior officials of the Ministry of Finance, Communication and Digital Economy, the World Bank, Mobile and Internet Service Operator Chiefs, among other hosts of dignitaries. Yellow Jala reports.
Director General of PURA, Yusuf M. Job, said the procurement of a new electromagnetic monitoring device is meant to address issues which may raise unnecessary alarm and panic to the general public regarding the possible negative health effects from the use of mobile phones and radio-based stations. He added that PURA, as part of its consumer protection mandate, has developed guidelines for electromagnetic radiation from electricity and telecommunication ITC service providers. These EMF radiation monitoring equipment will monitor frequencies, for implying that virtually all frequencies used by telecommunication ITC service providers will be monitored, DG Jobs said.
As part of our regulatory mandate, the authority, in collaboration with relevant state institutions, will continue to measure and monitor and check safety levels as frequently as possible, especially when 5G comes into play. We wish to take this opportunity to thank the President of the Gambia, Mr. Adama Barrow, and his government for his trust and support for PURA. We also wish to thank the World Bank, who have allocated over $1.5 million, equivalent to $90 million to PURA, for projects in this year alone, of which PURA has executed 90%. The World Bank team and project has applauded PURA for its execution level we are the only institution that is on course to complete all its activities this year.
He disclosed that PURA had conducted audits on some base stations, masts, and towers in the Greater Banjul area for structural integrity and assessed the level of radiation from all the sites, which confirmed that radiation levels are significantly lower than the reference level recommended by the International Commission for Non-Poisoning Radiation Protection. World Bank Senior Public Sector Specialist Michael Jelek restated that the World Bank remains committed and resolute in supporting PURA to optimize a regulatory role in the telecom sector, which he described as critical growth and development in the Gambia.
Management Development Project provides assistance for the government of the Gambia for a broad range of revenue-enhancing and public financial management reforms, some of which touch upon support to Gambia's telecommunications sector, which we believe is a critical sector for growth in the Gambia. In this regard, the project is proud to support the acquisition and implementation of this electromagnetic field emissions testing equipment. We believe that this technology will help PURA to independently verify, evaluate, and validate EMF safety compliance in line with international standards. This is a key step to ensuring consumer safety in the Gambia, and it's a key element to ensuring PURA is able to continue to play its essential regulatory role in the telecoms sector.
The project manager, Gambia Fiscal Management and Development Project at the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, Anta Tal, said the projects aim at improving the use of profitability of the telecoms industry, which contributes significantly to the GDP of the Gambia economy, both in terms of revenue mobilization and employment creation.
The overall objective of this assignment is to assist the authority to develop a consistent regulatory practice for PURA and to remedy issues of dominance and long-term growth in the sector. Finally, we have also signed a contract for the development of the infrastructure sharing regulations and price caps. The output of this activity will help create investments and synergies in the ICT sector as it seeks to minimize the duplication of investments in the ICT infrastructure and allow smaller or new operators in the market. We hope that all these investments from the government of the Gambia, through support of the World Bank, will support the sector to generate returns, and industry players and the general public and the government will benefit from all this support.
Madam Tal stated that the support rendered to the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy and PURA under the project signals the importance government places on the ITC sector for its fiscal reforms and microeconomic programming. PURA's board chair, Ali Ngom, who formally launched the device, expressed sincere appreciation to the World Bank and the government of the Gambia for supporting the authority in its drive to come up with the best appropriate measures to effectively carry out its mandate. For GRTS News, this is Yero Jalo reporting.
Now, helping to minimize road accidents, the Front Star Driving School speaks to GRTS on the impact of driving lessons and the need for all drivers to formally learn the trade before plying the roads. Louis Mendy has more.
Road accidents have become a major concern for world leaders as the World Index on Road Accidents rose to a worrying 1.3 million deaths a year, posted by the Sahel Network in 2021. In this report, the Gambia is listed to have registered one of the highest records of accidents, and it seems the recent waves are proving the point. Factors responsible are many, but the Gambia Transport Union 2021 report says overspeeding is the major cause and called for concerted efforts to curb the menace. Championing the crusade to minimize road accidents is the Front Star Driving School. Here, the philosophy is no Gambian should drive without first learning road signs and taking practical lessons. Antoinette Mendy is the social service manager.
So we come with a notion that we need to stop it. We need to make sure this country, even if we cannot get to where we want to reach, at least we need to go a step ahead of other people. So we train them on both the practical and the theory. The theory is where we teach them the traffic rules. We teach you the traffic signs on where to park, how to stop, and how to do certain things on the highway. And we also teach them on how to drive on the highway. Before giving them any certificate, we bring them together call people that are well experienced. They will come and give them a testing, and that testing will assure that individual whether I am qualified to drive, I am qualified to have a document that will take me anywhere when I want to drive or not.
Established in 2020, the school has graduated over 200 students.
When you look at the number of people we've graduated over the years, I think we've got examples of individuals that when they are stopped on the highway for the perfect way of driving, the police or the person that stopped them will ask them, where have you been trained? And I've got those calls a couple of times since we started the school, and it's a very good name for us. It's a very good thing that we hear from people outside.
On this day in Bakau, learners are taking their last lessons. 95% accuracy is the pass mark.
Today we have an occasion where we call all the students. It's like a graduation sort of for them. But before they graduate, we need to test them to see their ability, whether they understand what we've taught them or there is something missing. And if you fail, obviously, you need to go back to the school. There is no mercy because driving is one's life. So we cannot leave anyone to go out there and just risk your life like that.
CC has passed successfully and can now graduate. But what has he learned over the period?
I now learn how to drive and the rules and regulations of the street and the police, how I should behave with them and how should I communicate with drivers. The noise of cars have a communication. So you used to listen to the noise of the car so that if you are driving, you know how your car sounds and other things.
No age is too old to pursue one's dream. At age 60, this old man is taking his driving lessons and encourage all to emulate him. For Amadou Jallo, the testing officer at the school, good manners also help to prevent road accidents. A subject at the driving school, a subject taught at the school.
Gambia today, the accident rate is too high. Nothing didn't cause it. It's because of our attitude. A road which you know that you should run for 20 kilometers, you fly for 80 kilometers. And obviously expect that at any minute you can cause an accident. Customers or the passengers told you, oh, you are running on a high speed, do not bullshit them. And it is happening in our drivers.
The councillor for the Farafenni ward is pleased that Frontstar Driving School is doing a similar job in Farafenni as in other parts of the country.
Yes, that will mitigate accidents in Farafenni and it will reduce it very well because actually, you know, many people in Farafenni want to train how to drive, but we don't have the access. But now, thank God, these people are here, and we definitely encourage everybody to come on board so that they can train you, certificate you, and launch you and teach you how to drive.
And as the government amplifies effort to minimize road accidents, credit could also be given to the Frontstar Driving School for the initiative.
Time now to take our first break. Sports news is up next. Do stay. Welcome back to some soccer news now. The Gambia Under-23 football team has made a promising start to the 2023 AFCON Under-23 qualifiers by beating Burkina Faso 1-0 in Cotonou. Mamadou Bojang scored from the penalty shot spot in the second half to Abdou Jame's side, an impressive away win with the first leg after Lamin Jaji was brought down in the penalty box. The return leg is September 27th in Marrakesh, Morocco, with the winner advancing to the next stage to face Senegal. Now, the Guinea-Bissau Embassy in Banjul organized a football tournament among nationals of the ECOWAS member countries resident in the country as part of events marking the September 24th Guinea-Bissau Independence Day commemoration. The final of that tournament ended in delight for Guinea-Bissau as they trashed Nigeria 5-0 to clinch the title. Famara Baji tells us more.
There might not be much at stake in this game, but Guinea-Bissau were more concerned about the pride at stake, as they have their ambassador to the Gambia seated among the spectators. Bissau and Nigeria entertained each other on the pitch. While the Nigerians tried to spoil the show for Bissau, Guinea-Bissau showed defiance and broke the deadlock within the opening proceedings through Brahima Sambu. Guinea-Bissau will go on to add 4 further goals to put the game beyond a selection of Nigerian players resident in the Gambia. First, it was Joe Almeida who doubled the lead for Guinea-Bissau. Before Aruna Sedi makes it 3-0 with a deflected strike. The way Guinea-Bissau celebrates their goal shows how concerned they are about a win. Despite leading 3-0, it appears Bissau did not have Nigeria where they want them. Substitute Fernando Pereira then scored a brace to make the scoreline even more embarrassing. His second, which was Guinea's 5th goal, dramatically beat the Nigeria's goalkeeper. For Guinea-Bissau to seal and celebrate a 5-0 win over Nigeria in the final.
The message I have for Guinean community, I really appreciate what they did. I really love them because we are one Africa, one people and one West Africa. And I believe also to answer them whenever they called us in a situation like this. I believe to answer them in a good faith. I really love them.
Madam Vanalda Mala, Mbadin Kafunyoma, Milketa Nigeria, the Gambia, and Guinea Conakry. For
the authorities, the goal of the tournament was achieved.
This is a sublime moment for the friendship, solidarity between all ECOWAS people living in Gambia. Almost the young men, the young people. We need to give the positive energy for our citizens. As Gambian, as Guinea-Bissau, as Senegalese, all of the ECOWAS people need to feel the moment. This is the sublime moment for the ECOWAS. This is the Guinea-Bissau weekend in Gambia.
Both the runners-up and the winners were decorated. And it was a perfect moment for the Guinea-Bissau community in the Gambia to start the celebrations ahead of their National Day commemoration. Famara Baji, GRTS News.
We'll be back with news from outside the Gambia right after this break. Welcome back. African leaders at the United Nations General Assembly in New York took their turns to address their counterparts on issues ranging from climate change, reforms in the UN Security Council, food security, and the conflict in Ukraine. Details in this report by CGTN.
Mr. President, over and above the current emergencies, I have come to convey the message of a continent determined to work with all of its partners in a relational ethic over a dialogue of confidence and trust and mutual respect. I have come to say that Africa has suffered enough of the burden of history, that it does not want to be the place of a new Cold War, but rather a pole of stability and opportunity, open to all of its partners on a mutually beneficial basis.
En dépit de ma bonne volonté,
at the heart of Europe, a war between Russia and Ukraine is a gaping wound, the blood of which is reaching far away Africa and disrupting international trade due to significant collateral damage, particularly when it comes to the provision of cereal crops and energy from Ukraine and Russia. The 2015 Paris Agreement recognizes that developing countries have the right to emit carbon dioxide for their development while taking precautions for the global climate through their nationally determined contributions. The government of the Democratic Republic of Congo has thus set itself the goal of exploiting the country's natural resources while respecting environmental standards.
La République centrafricaine
The Central African Republic reiterates its support for the common position of the African Union, which calls for the in-depth reforms of the United Nations and the expansion of seats of the members of the Security Council for a fairer participation and more representatives of all continents.
The cost of living has spiked across the world, and inflation in many countries has hit record levels due to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, and rising global instability. A report by the United Nations Development Programme says 71 million people in the developing world have fallen into poverty in just 3 months. But how are families in the affected countries coping with the situation? CGTN's Yolisa Nyamela has more in the situation in South Africa.
cost of living, some Johannesburg residents have elected to make extra bucks by buying and selling second-hand goods. Johan Max, a Johannesburg resident, and his family were, like many people, hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic.
So I was working for companies doing alarm systems, doing technical work, and we couldn't do any work, we couldn't do anything, and that's how I started making an income from that. We started a small biltong shop, selling biltong, but that was my main income, buying and selling. So, and it helped us with a cash flow.
But that was not enough. Marx then started selling old goods from his household. He then joined a WhatsApp group that had been set up to buy and sell second-hand goods.
There's a lot of people on those groups. So a lot of people are struggling outside. They also doing buying and selling.
Melissa Oliver is one of those who started these WhatsApp groups.
So all that my group does is literally create a platform where people can advertise either a service that they give, so it would be home services like your nail technicians, hairdressers, gardening services, people that have odds and ends that they want to sell.
Oliver says as soon as she started this group, she realized that it's a necessary service to provide to her community. The group provides for people who need to make ends meet as the cost of living continues to rise.
So people would sell things on there, literally just maybe to put something on the table. So it would be items of clothing, TVs, small appliances, etc., that would be the increase at the end of the month. That is what I've noticed. So people would literally try and sell whatever they have to make ends meet.
Oliver says every day new people join in, also looking to make some extra money. Yolisa Njamela for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
And Russian President Vladimir Putin on Wednesday ordered a partial mobilization of 300,000 reservists, marking an escalation of what Moscow calls its military operation in Ukraine. The decision was condemned by Ukraine's allies, with the EU saying it was a sign of Putin's desperation. France 24 has the latest.
4 pro-Moscow breakaway regions in eastern Ukraine that they would hold referendums on joining Russia was welcomed by Russian President Vladimir Putin. Putin vowed to support a people he said had been bullied by Kyiv.
I stress that we will do everything to ensure safe conditions for referendums, so that people can express their will, and we will support the decision on their future taking by the majority of residents of the Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics and Zaporizhia and Kherson regions.
The 4 regions all lie in territory held by separatists, but Kyiv has made increasing inroads into reclaiming some of that land in recent weeks. Western governments were unanimous in their condemnation of the announcement, and the US ambassador to Kyiv tweeted on Wednesday morning saying sham referendums and mobilization are signs of weakness, of Russian failure, and that the United States would never recognize Russia's claim to purportedly annexed Ukrainian territory. The Ukrainian government also said Russia's announcement of a partial mobilization was a sign of panic on Moscow's part.
Russia's mobilization is a predictable step that will prove extremely unpopular and underscores that the war is not going according to Moscow's plan.
Russia's announcement it would call on up to 300,000 reserve troops marks an escalation in a war Moscow has insisted was just a special military operation ever since it invaded Ukraine in February.
Well, that draws the curtains for this edition of GRTS News. A quick recap of our top stories. The UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has raised concern over the deterioration global security situation during the opening of the 77th session of the UN General Assembly in New York. First Lady Fatoumata Barrow has called for global efforts to improve the welfare of women, children and vulnerable members of society at a ceremony convened at Africa's First Lady Development in New York. The Food Safety and Quality Authority has launched a new scientific committee to ensure effective control of the national food safety system. Away from home, African leaders have been addressing the UN General Assembly on climate change, reforms in the UN Security Council, food security and the conflict in Ukraine. And Russian President Vladimir Putin has ordered a partial mobilization of 300,000 reservists in what Moscow calls its military operations in Ukraine. Well, that was all we had in this edition of GRTS News. Thanks for the pleasure of your company. Stay tuned and enjoy the rest of our programs.